motivation. Jonas Andrew-Phillip tells me avoid desperation. There's still facts to rebuild a nation, to make us strong. Enhance a bond full of brothers and sisters. Tell the future we can build whatever we wish to. Put your mind on the map, eyes on the prize. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.
Hello, kings and queens, the Wasteland to winner, Jonas Andrew-Phillip here today. And today, we've got the 15th episode of the Let's Talk Facts podcast. And right now, I'm with my boy. I'm with a legend. I'm with a guy that I'm definitely going to be collaborating with a lot in the future.
Definitely.
These people may not know who you are, bro. And how dare you not know who this man is? Bro, please introduce yourself for the kings and queens listening at home.
Hello, guys. My name is Ali Soufan. I'm from Lebanon. I'm currently 21 years old. I'm studying computer science and artificial intelligence at the University of Nottingham. It's my final year. I've just moved to the UK, so it's been 3 years living in the UK. And I'm just a content creator. Obviously, you guys should know by now. Everyone knows I'm a content creator. I like making content. I'm about personal development. I like creating conversations and just sparking insight into things that people don't necessarily speak about within the domain of mental health, self-development, all that type of stuff, obviously. And so, you guys can find me on my socials. And I'm just ready to jump into this conversation with the king himself. I'm not the king, you're the king, bro.
We're both legends in our own right, bro. Both legends in our own right, you know it. But yeah, so I'm not even going to go into the first question I had planned. Actually, what I want to talk about is this, because you mentioned when you introducing yourself that you like to create conversations about things that people don't usually talk about. Where did that come from? Like, was it always something you had within you, or was it something that you developed recently?
That's actually very interesting, because this is something that I've realized has always been within me, but I've only discovered it recently, if that makes sense. So I kind of started using social media more intentionally last year. I'd say around this time last year. I started with TikTok. I was just making just random type of content. I knew that I always wanted to use social media with the aim of impacting and influencing people, but I was trying to figure out how to do it. So from probably last year until I'd say last year March until maybe last year December-ish, I was kind of making a specific type of self-development content that you would kind of see everywhere online, that you'd be able to see in any kind of self-help book that you'd be able to pick up. And doing that, even though I was passionate about it and I really liked it, doing that kind of made me realize that I am capable of more, if that makes sense. I just feel like I like having conversations about things that you can't necessarily find in a book. I like diving deeper into things at the more maybe philosophical level, sometimes at the psychological level. I genuinely figuring out, because what I've realized, especially this past year as I've used social media, and I'm sure you feel the same, is that there's so much power in relationships and creating and conversations with other people. And the more I kind of got involved in social media, the more I started to have different types of conversations. And that made me realize that what I want to do is not just create and impact people, but also be able to tell stories and tell other people's stories and create conversations from those stories. And then, so it's just been kind of discovering that path for these past few months. And I have some projects in the mix, but nothing's public yet. But yeah.
Cool. I'm excited for those projects. When the thing is also the whole aspect of storytelling that you mentioned, that's so important, because as humans, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a large percentage that we remember more from stories rather than anything else. And human brains are actually hardwired to storytelling, which is why in conversations, people love stories, and speeches, people love stories. People read novels. Well, some people read novels. I read novels. I started again recently reading novels. So by non-fiction, I'm talking if we're talking about personal development books, that's why I class as non-fiction. That's my non-fiction, biographies as well, Black history books, stuff like that. But novels, stuff like that. But I need to find some more novels, to be real with you, because the ones I got right now are kind of, they're a bit, people know them. I like reading stuff that not many people know. And this is the thing also, I think I said this to somebody else, but I didn't say it online or anything. But I've noticed personally that it's the people, I think I said this on Clubhouse the other day, we made it probably last week when we were discussing when we were discussing self-help books on Clubhouse last week, and I think you may have remembered me say this, but I said I prefer the books that aren't really spoken about that much. Like, you know how you got the big dogs, like the Rich Dad Poor Dads, the Think and Grow Rich. You got the How to Win and Influence Friends, or whatever it's called. Sorry, Dale Carnegie, forgot the name. It was a long time since I read that. But I like the books that aren't really spoken about that much, like The One Thing, and books that they're great, but they're not spoken about that much. I don't know why it is, but maybe it's because I have such an expectation of the books that are spoken about so much that I then put an unrealistic expectation of it to be excellent and me to get tons and tons of value from every single line that I read. That may be a thing, but also I've noticed that it's the people on Instagram, and I'm not just saying this because I've got a decent following right now, but it's the people that aren't really at the top that I'm seeing from my own eyes. So I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about people like you that don't have 1,000 followers yet, but do deserve 1,000 followers, are the ones I actually gain the most value from. I don't know if you feel the same, but that's something I've noticed personally recently, that I'm seeing more people that are quite smaller, but it may be because they're hungrier. I don't know, but we all know that when people are hungrier, they bring out their best work, right? So yeah, what do you think about that anyway?
The thing is, I think I think because with all these types of big books, especially when people get big on social media, I've noticed that sometimes people grow and scale on social media at the expense of actual quality and value, if that makes sense. So especially over like as TikTok has become more of a thing and it's been easier and easier to kind of grow on TikTok, for example, I've noticed lots of people completely abandoning Instagram, jumping on TikTok, getting the followers there, but it's at the cost of the actual quality of the content that they're making, you know? And I feel like for me, like followers is literally just a number. And when I started social media, I'm not gonna lie, my aim was obviously to inspire and impact, but also to be able to scale it. But right now, especially since like November time, I've just realized that whole idea of followers and scaling, I actually don't want that. Like, I like having a small community. I like having a tight knit and small group of people to kind of talk to. And I feel like it's just so much more personal. It's so much nicer. And also, I don't want to be famous, you know? I actually don't want, I actually don't think I would ever want to be famous because I'm a very private person. And what I've noticed with social media is that I like to dip in and out because, you know, as I was telling you before, I don't like to do things half-heartedly. I don't like to do things when I'm not in the mood to do them. And for me, content creation and social media has become more of a thing where I'm documenting my journey. And as part of the journey, sometimes you don't feel like you want to do things. And I just embrace that. I call it, actually not I call it, I read about it. A friend sent me a video. It's this whole idea of lazy, like making sure and accounting for your lazy self. And that's what I've been doing recently, because a lot of times when we plan things and we have all these ambitious goals, we plan it with the best version of ourselves in mind. Someone who is going to, you know, go out and do all these things and actually put out all these pieces of content and always be happy and always do that. But 9 times out of 10, you're not actually that best version of yourself. You're actually the lazy self, the one that likes to procrastinate, the one that's not always in the mood. The idea of lazy procrastination, and this whole idea of I like to kind of embrace that life is in seasons, and sometimes I don't like to necessarily do something for the sake of just doing it. Sometimes I may feel like doing it. And so I've kind of embraced that. And I feel like that really ties into this whole like thing on social media. And with the books thing as well, I feel like for me, I've started tapping into books that are not necessarily within traditional self-help. So I've started reading more philosophy. I've started reading more history, psychology, sports science, all that type of stuff, because I feel like that's where the real value is. That's where you have like a more well-rounded approach to life, if that makes sense. And you can kind of get different perspectives from different things and kind of assimilate your own point of view, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, 100%. And I got to agree with you on the point about not being famous, because I don't want to be famous either. I do not want to be famous. But this is why I say that if I have to make the sacrifice of being famous to fulfill my purpose, then I'll make that sacrifice. I don't want to make it, that's why it's a sacrifice. But if I want to fulfill my purpose, then I have to do it. That's my perspective on it. But I do, when I was young, obviously, when you're young, you don't understand what the psychology of a famous person, what they go through. So I was like, oh yeah, I want to be famous, da, 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 da. And when someone else would say, I don't want to be famous, I was like, well, are you crazy? I was like, are you crazy? You really think you don't want to be famous? But then I think I got to either year 6 or secondary school, and I was like, nah, that's not it. I don't want to be famous. Nah, man. But if I have to make that sacrifice to fulfill my purpose and do what I love to do, I'll do it. And also what you said about you like having a small community. I actually never thought of it like that, but it's true because when you think about it, everyone in our sector, so everyone in the personal development sector that we're both in, knows each other. That's why on Clubhouse, obviously, there's probably people out there that we don't know of. However, the majority of people that I consistently have been seeing are the same people. And when we go into the Gen Z club on Clubhouse, for example, same people there. When I go into other things I go on, the same people in this field are there. And it is tight, it is close. And we all do comment and also big ourselves up. We big each other up, sorry. So I do enjoy that. Yeah, I do enjoy that. And that's the thing, because I feel that a lot of people, unfortunately, do have the crabs in the bucket mentality, but because we're all successful in our own right, and I'm speaking it into existence because obviously none of us are satisfied with where we're at. However, when we continue to strive, we will be. So I'm speaking it into existence already so that we're commanding the expectation from ourselves. Because we already are successful in our own right, we have abundant mentalities where we're like, if, for example, if you get bigger than me, that's cool. I don't mind. That's my boy. But also, just because he got big and he's getting all these opportunities doesn't mean I can't get any. That's the mentality that people in this sector have. And I love it because unfortunately, not a lot of people have that mentality. I'm grateful to be part of a field. And it may change when we get older. It may change. But for now, I feel that with the way it's going, it's not going to.
That's true. I agree. And I feel like it's nice because I actually don't feel any toxicity within this community. I feel like everyone is just so supportive of each other and everyone's just kind of doing their own thing and minding their own business. You don't really see people hating on each other. You don't really see people like, I just feel like it's genuinely like a really supportive community. And it's just nice because I feel like it's such an intelligent, big group of people. Like every time I sit down with someone from this community, every time I hear people speak on Clubhouse, I feel like I'm learning so much and I'm getting so much value just by being in the same rooms with these people, like it's so humbling and it's so inspiring. And I take as much as I can from these people because I know that like there's just so much value there.
Exactly, man. And the thing is that, as you said, you came here 3 years ago. You've been studying here 3 years ago. So you haven't even always been from the UK. But let me ask you, what was the main reason that you decided to move from Lebanon? Was that how I pronounce
Lebanon,
it?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Good. London to study your degree and get your degree.
So basically, it's more of a thing where obviously Lebanon is my country. I love Lebanon. I dream of, in my opinion, it's the best country in the world. That's a long debate, but I just love my country. I've grown up there, so obviously making that decision to leave the country is a tough one. It's not easy to leave your home, to leave your family, to leave your friends, to leave the place that you grew up in and move to a completely different country with a completely different culture, a different language. Because obviously in Lebanon, we speak, it's more than other Arab countries. We do speak English and French, but obviously the main language is Arabic. But it's always been a thing, unfortunately, because of the state of the Middle East and the state of Lebanon, it's never been a stable place to live in. It's not a place where you can go and look for a job. It's not a place where you can get education and expect some form of output from the education. The quality of education is decent, but the standard of living, not so much. It's still a country where electricity is not guaranteed. It's still a country where clean water is not guaranteed. It's a country where governments don't really penalize people for what they do. It's filled with corruption, nepotism, people stealing money. It's not an environment where if you want to succeed, you will be able to succeed unless you're willing to exploit other people, and it's not safe on all levels to be there. And so it's always kind of, unfortunately, it's always kind of been this idea from when I was young. My dad would just tell me like, you study hard, you get into this. I actually had to do 2 high school diplomas to be able to come to the UK. So I don't know if you know the IB program, so International Baccalaureate. It's kind of like A-levels. So I did IB, and then I also did the Lebanese baccalaureate. So I had to do 2 baccalaureates just to be able to come to the UK. But it's always been like, my dad's like, you sacrifice, you study, you work hard so that you are able to guarantee a future for yourself, because unfortunately there's no future in this country. As much as me and all my family and all my friends want it to be, there's no future in the country. And so it's been a thing for generations now, where a lot of people, once they graduate high school and they kind of finish that part of their education, a lot of Lebanese people immigrate. So you can find so many Lebanese people in the US, in Canada, in the UK, and Australia, just trying to make a future for themselves. And so that's kind of the plan for me. A lot of them, though, do, after they immigrate, they do come back and try to help the country. And that's definitely my plan. But definitely for the next 5 to 10 years minimum, I'm here pursuing an education, pursuing a job, equal opportunities, and actually, like, trying to see what it's like to live in a decent country.
And that right there, what you said there, England to live in, obviously, I'm a black male living in England, so it's not easy, right? However, what you said right there is factual, because I may be a black male living in the UK, and this is going to sound very controversial, but as much as there was a white privilege, as much as there's systematic racism and stuff like that going on, I can still be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. People say you have to put 10 times more work in if you're black. That might be true, but you should be putting that kind of work in regardlessly, and you should be doing it already. So when someone said that to me when I was in secondary school, I kind of said to myself, I don't really care. I was going to do that anyway. And this in secondary school, I wasn't like I was now either. But I was still like, okay, cool, whatever. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, and what blew me away from what you just said, there was many things, but we need to be grateful. People like me that live in these countries like the UK, the US, we need to be grateful, because there's people like you that don't have the opportunities that we have. I said this on a podcast to somebody, to Neil Onions. It was about a couple episodes ago. He grew up in the Midlands, right? So London as well, the fact I live in London is a beauty. And my boy Alpha, when he came on this podcast, he said the same thing. There are so many opportunities. A lot of young people say there's not enough opportunities for young people. There's tons. The channels are poor. That's why. The channels to get the adults don't know how to get to the young people don't know how to get to the adults. The few of us that know how to do it, we kind of, I wouldn't say we got lucky, but we were strategic. Let's say that we were strategic. It didn't work a lot of the time, but we kept going and we were resilient to find a solution. However, the fact that you grow up in a country where you go through all the challenges that you do, and then you have to do 2 IBMs, did you say? 2 IBMs, right?
I had to do the IB program, and I had to do the Lebanese program. So I have 2 high school diplomas.
That's twice, yeah? You have to do that twice. Some people in the UK could become millionaires and have a good life without GCSEs. But you have to do 2 of those just to come and have the opportunity to be a successful person. It's crazy. And I needed to break it down for people so they understood, because a lot of people in this country complain about little things, but they're not grateful for what we have in front of us. We need to be so grateful. We need to be grateful that we wake up in the morning, because we could have died, right? Stop waking up like it's an accident. A lot of us wake up like it's an accident and just do things that aren't going to aid us in the future. There are people out there dying for the opportunities and situations that we are currently in, and we're taking it for granted. And I just wanted to say that for everybody listening to this right now, because Ali's a man in front of you right now that no matter what challenge he went through, he's still grateful. He's still a great person to talk to, be around, all this kind of stuff. And he went through those kind of challenges. He doesn't come around saying, oh yeah, I did this, I did that. This is the first, I talk to this guy a lot. This is the first time he's told me this. So guys, please ensure that when you ever want to quit, or you ever think, oh no, this country's this, I hate this country. Because a lot of people do say they hate this country. I didn't say I hated the country when I was young, but I did want to be in America. But then it took time for me to realize the fact that I'm in the UK is actually really good. So guys, when you think stuff like that, exactly, it's a blessing, exactly. When you think stuff like that, guys, please think of people that don't live in the most developed countries that don't have these opportunities, because they're dying out there and they're crying out for the opportunities that we have placed in our fingertips. So I just wanted to say that. And I wanted to ask, did you find it, how challenging was it when you found out that you had to do the IB program twice, the English one and the Lebanese one, just to have a chance to have education in this country?
The thing is, like I never really, this is gonna sound crazy, but I never really even thought of it as that much of a disadvantage, if that makes sense. Like, yes, I knew that I was at a disadvantage, but I never really felt like I was being held back because I knew that everything I was doing now was gonna eventually pay off, if that makes sense. And it's always been like, it's been drilled to me from when I was young. Like, the education system in Lebanon is extremely, extremely tough, and you need to work and work and work. And so that whole mentality of hard work has just kind of been drilled into me ever since I've been young. And it's always been this plan of, you need to grow up and leave the country. Like, in Lebanon, we grew up very early because of the stuff happening around us, because of, like, in my lifetime alone, Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, has been destroyed and rebuilt a good 2-3 times. And that's just in my lifetime alone. In the past, I've been alive for 21 years. So we grew up early. We knew that life wasn't easy, and that there are things that are not that easy, and that you have to work hard and you're gonna have to sacrifice, and sometimes you need to leave home as well. It's kind of a normalized idea. So a lot of people in my family as well left Lebanon and went to pursue education and jobs outside of Lebanon. So it's always been that harsh reality of, this is home, but it's not always going to be home. And so it wasn't really that much of a struggle kind of coping with that, because it's just always been an idea in my head. But I really do want to highlight that this whole idea of education, even like, because when you were speaking, I kind of thought about that. Even just going to school and having an education, people don't realize how much of a privilege that is. People here complain about going to university. But for example, in Lebanon, if you wanted to go to university, you'd have to pay for it yourself. Like, there's no government loans, there's no any of that type of stuff. You're not going to be able to, if you want, you can go to the public university. We have one big one in Lebanon. Actually, don't call me on the numbers, but we have one main big one, and and even just by going to that, you are not guaranteed job opportunities within Lebanon, and it's not recognized worldwide. Like, it's tough to get out of the country. It's tough to get a proper education, and education really is the base. Like, that's always been something that's been drilled into me as well. And I come here and I see people complain about going to uni, but they don't understand that people like me, like my family, has had to push and push and push and work just to be able to fund me to go to university, because our government doesn't give us loans. In Lebanon, if you lose your job, something like COVID happens, the government doesn't pay for you. The government doesn't care about you. It's literally all about you supporting yourself. And so I've just always grown up thinking and knowing and feeling that that was what the world was. So coming to the UK really did open my eyes in terms of, wow, people here really are so just privileged, but they don't even know it. I don't blame them, because they live in a first world country. It's comfortable. You have things that you wouldn't necessarily expect to not have in other countries, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true, 100%, man. And this is the thing, because just to go back on the point I said before, if anyone, like, I brought up race and stuff like that, right? But I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to people listening that may have felt a type of way about what I said. So what I meant was, obviously, for Black people, it's been extremely tough. Like, my grandparents, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, the Windrush generation, trust me, I've read my Black history books. I know the stuff that's happened, and it's ridiculous. And I salute everyone that survived it. I rest in peace to all the Black people that have been murdered and all that kind of stuff like that. But what I was talking about, for the people at home that may have felt a type of way about what I said, was that I can still be successful. Maybe if this was the 60s, 50s, 40s, it'd be, well, not maybe, it would be completely different. It would be. Because some of the stuff I know that happened to Black people is horrific. And I'm grateful that I didn't have to grow up through that. That's why I salute the older generation for actually being able to survive through that and still bring us into the world. But I'm talking to people today, my age, that are young Black people. Yes, we don't have white privilege. There is systematic racism, and we are doing what we can to prevent it and to really educate people in this kind of stuff, because racism still goes on. Like, every Black person, I'm just going to say this, right? Because I was thinking about this earlier today. If you're 18 and you've lived in the UK your whole life, without you even knowing, at one point you have dealt with racism. At one point you have, without you even knowing sometimes that you have, because in the UK, they in America, they're in your face about it, but in the UK, they're subtle with it, that they're undercover racists. Americans will come up to your face and be racist. UK, sometimes they'll do it, but a lot of the time they put it under the rug. But still, that doesn't mean you can't be successful. You can still be a successful Black person. But then when I'm thinking about people like you who don't have the privilege to be able to be as successful as you dream to be, living in Lebanon and coming over here and seeing how we're living, we are privileged. We are privileged, but we're not privileged the same way that other people in this country are. But still, people like you aren't as privileged as us, if you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah, no,
I just like, that's why I'm grateful for the position I'm in and the fact that I've grown up in the UK, to be honest, because I could have, how many countries in the world I could have grown up in? I wouldn't have minded to grow up in Africa or the Caribbean. I don't mind living there, honestly. I really don't. But the thing is that I have more of an opportunity to make something out of myself. And this is all opinion based. I have more of an opportunity to make something out of myself living in the UK. So yeah, just for people at home that may have felt a type of way about what I just said, just to clarify it a bit more, because I don't want people blowing up my phone or anything saying, Jonas, you said that, how dare you know what I mean? I don't want people coming at me. I just have to say that just in case. Like, I'm grateful for all you people that have helped us Black people come through and all the older generation. And I'm sorry for what you guys went through. And I'm grateful that you put us in a position where we're educated about this kind of stuff. And yeah, we'll continue to rise and shine for you guys. But yeah, just to say that. So I wanted to also ask now, like, how do you feel that both your environment, so firstly Lebanon, how did Lebanon shape who you are as a person before you came to London? And now, how has London shaped and influenced who you are today?
So that's an interesting question, because as I said before, living in Lebanon has had a lot of benefits for my character, in the sense that it's made me a stronger person, in my opinion, because I've been exposed to things and certain ways of life and certain situations that you wouldn't necessarily experience in a stable country, you know. And I don't want to be talking about all the problems and that type of stuff, because, you know, I don't like complaining. I don't like bringing up stuff that's happened in the past. But it's a reality. People who live in countries like Lebanon, we face things that children aren't really supposed to see. We see things that we do think, like we have to genuinely like work and work. But at the same time, with that, because you have all these bad things happening around you, the environment does tend to get a bit sometimes depressing, you know. People like to, it becomes a thing where people like to escape from reality. And so they look into things like money. They look into things like this social status. So social status and having a social image in Lebanon is something that's extremely important. You would not be able to tell someone who's rich and in a higher class from someone who's poor and in a lower class in Lebanon, just because people know so well how to assemble an image. And in my opinion, I think it's an escape from reality. So this whole idea of images and having a self-image is also something that's kind of been put inside of me. These types of ideas I've been fed just growing up in this type of country, and also kind of it's kind of made me adaptable, I would definitely say, because I've kind of learned to cope with the things that are happening around me. I've learned the value of hard work. I've learned the fact that there's just genuinely like, even in the darkest times, you can find beauty. And that's, I think, what my country has taught me as well. I'm extremely proud of my country. If you ask any people who know me, like personally here, who I've met at university, I have a Lebanese flag in my room. I've always had one. I'm always trying to get people to come to Lebanon. Being in a country where people view as something, it's not that good of a country, and being in that type of environment where a lot of times people are ashamed and they complain and they want to leave the country and they get depressed. And there's always some problem or some economic crisis or some bomb that goes off or something that happens, and it just brings people's energy down. And it's so hard to get sucked into that. And at times, I can't lie, I do. Like right now, it's Easter break. Usually around this time, I go back home to Lebanon. But I made the decision to stay because the environment right now there is just so bad and so depressing. And I know that if I just go there, I'm going to be sucked into that environment of people not being able to make a living and not to put down these people's problems. They're very real. But when you grow up around that, you just want to escape it. You know, you can't, sometimes you just genuinely really can't. And so that's why I have so much respect for a lot of my friends and family who have stayed in Lebanon. And there's a lot of people who have been forced to kind of discontinue their education abroad and stay in Lebanon. There's so many people who have lost their jobs and just not been able to pay for their education there. So it's a very depressing environment. And so then coming to the UK, it's been more of a thing where it's been uplifting. I've seen more opportunity. I've seen people with ambition and strive and hope, and not that that doesn't exist in Lebanon, but unfortunately in that type of environment in Lebanon, that's where dreams go to get killed, that's where dreams die. And it's a very sad reality. But here I come and I see people working on themselves. I see people not letting their dreams get killed by the environment. And obviously that goes back to the environment. The environment may not be as depressing or as tough here. Not to put down, and I hate comparing and putting down other people's problems, but it's just a whole different vibe when you genuinely have a safe and secure home and environment. It's easy to kind of nourish your dreams. And I've really experienced that here. And I've experienced ambitious people. I've seen the value. And it's also made me grateful because I realized that even me just coming to the UK, I'm so much more privileged than so many other people who've had to stay in Lebanon. Me just having this opportunity alone has made me so humbled. And it's just made me so grateful. And it's kind of put this drive in me because now failing is not an option for me, like maybe in Lebanon, failing was an option, not that it ever was, but because that environment is so bad, sometimes it's less of an excuse and more, there's so many reasons for you to fail. But here it's just like, there's no excuse and there's no reason. It's just like, I have no option. I'm here to establish a life. I'm trying to surround myself with the best types of people, like yourself, like so many of these people meet online. I'm trying to, just build myself and I get that energy from all these people. And so it's good energy.
Bro, this is humility to a team, man. The fact that you're even saying, right, the fact that not a lot of people would even say what you just said about the whole part about you're privileged to come here rather than other people that aren't, even though you're still from the same place as them. A lot of people wouldn't even admit that. But the fact that you are admitting that, and it's just showing how humble you are. And the thing is that when you talk to us, it's not even like you have this kind of jealousy or envy about the fact that we were born here. It's the fact that I just feel that you're grateful to be around us. And I think this in it of itself, the way you carry yourself is a life lesson. And that's why I'm sitting here in awe, because I've spoken to you, you speak a lot. And you've never told me this kind of stuff. You're not trying to play the victim or anything like that. You don't have a victim complex when you easily could. And a lot of people do have victim complexes where, not to compare trauma, but they haven't been through what you've been through. So, bro, I salute you, man. I salute you for the way you've carried yourself, the way you're resilient about this kind of stuff. And as you said, your plan is obviously to help Lebanon when you get successful. And of course, bro, like 100%, that's what we all got to do for our countries, to be real. I'm trying to do that with my countries too. So, bro, I salute you and what your goals are, man, seriously. But yeah. And just to go into the first segment now, because we're probably going to bring the energy back up again, because that right there is something where I needed people to really deep what you were saying, which is why I was talking the way I was, because I can't be like, oh yeah, that's mad, bro. Bro, come on, that's mad, bro. I can't do that. I have to kind of be mellow about it, because it's a serious thing, isn't it? Yeah. But we're gonna get onto more things that are serious, but things that we can obviously get energized about. But before we get into that, segment one now, this is called the scale. This segment's called the scale. So essentially, you're the first person to actually do this. You're the first person to do this segment. So in this segment, I'm going to give you on a scale of 1 to 10, right? 10 being you agree with it 100%, 1 being you disagree it, right? You disagree with it, sorry. So I'll say a statement.
Yeah.
And then you're going to say how far you agree with it based on the scale. Do you get it?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, cool. So firstly, if you do a 9 to 5, then you are average.
Okay, so remind me, one's
like you
agree, 10. Oh, 1 is disagree, 10 is agree.
Yeah, agree strongly. 1 is disagree strongly.
Okay. I'd say 2.
Cool. Why is that?
Because 2 is in I disagree, because I think and I'm sure you've seen me speak about this, or seen me in rooms about this on Clubhouse even. I hate the stigma against 9 to 5s. I absolutely hate it, because I think we live in a time where people are so obsessed with this image of success, and that success means, Toby was saying this, shout out to Toby, he said this yesterday, that if you can't buy a Canada Goose jacket, that means you're broke and you're poor. And I don't think that's the case. And people have this image of success that needs to be, you need to be driving a Lamborghini, and you need to be financially free by the age of 20, and this and that. And I just think that it's built on this idea of, why are we rushing things? Like, people are in such a rush to build their own things and to do their own things, and they don't realize that there's so much benefit and so much you can learn from working under other people. Like, sometimes it's okay to put your ego aside and learn from other people, you know. Sometimes it's okay to kind of be the smaller guy and within a company and do the lazy, boring jobs, because that's how you learn, and you can't rush the process. And so that's why I'm so against people who think that people work within 9-to-5s are quote unquote average or not smart or they're lazy. And the thing is, you have to remember that so many people view success and happiness at different levels. So someone can be working a 9-to-5 and be making, I don't know how much money, and for them that is more than enough. You know, if you speak to someone in Lebanon and you give them the average salary of what someone here is, for them that's more than enough. Would you consider that person lazy? No, it's because they are satisfied, and that's their measure of happiness or success. And a lot of times people who are satisfied with the 9-to-5 jobs and don't complain, their measures of happiness and success are unrelated to material things. I think that's also another issue within our generation, and that's why people are so obsessed with this hustle culture and financial freedom. So I don't think there's a issue with working a 9-to-5. I don't think there's a problem. If people want to do it, they can, and if they don't, entrepreneurship isn't easy either. You know, it's everything is hard. You need to work hard either way.
Well, this is what I'm telling people. This entrepreneurship thing isn't easy, because a lot of people look at me and think, oh, Jonas, man, how do you do all of this? Like, deep down, and I say this on my story, I do say this on my story, like, I will say once in a while, like, oh, this happened, and it's not obviously good things I always share. Like, to be real with you, I think I've told you this, I don't share all my wins. I don't share all my losses either. I don't have to. But sometimes I'll just say, like, this entrepreneurship. Remember when I said in my story once, I just had my first welcome to entrepreneurship moment. And that wasn't a good moment. That wasn't a good, it was like, time to get real. This ain't no game. Like, this is the game now. That's what it was like. So it's not easy. And this is the thing, because when I started doing personal development, because you know all these gurus, right? And I think I spoke about this. Did I speak about this yesterday? I think I spoke about it yesterday on the Clubhouse when I came on. I said all these gurus say stuff that kind of causes 9-to-5s, and then people like me, who when I was new to personal development a couple years ago, like in 2019 summer, I was like, oh yeah, like, oh, 9-to-5s are dead. You do a 9-to-5, don't chat to me. I was like that. But now I've realized that, well, yeah, like recently, to be honest, I'm not gonna act like it changed immediately. This is 2021. There's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but I just thought it was a bit like, there's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5. Not everybody, because we spoke about this actually, not everybody is an entrepreneur, and not everyone is in a 9-to-5. And I don't even like the term 9-to-5 because it kind of makes it sound demoralizing, to be real with you. That's how it sounds. Like when I did my apprenticeship and people said Jonas does a 9-to-5, I was kind of like, you better watch your tongue. Like, it's an apprenticeship. I was like, watch your tongue. Don't act like you're saying it like I'm in the rat race. That's what people are treating it like. But who's to say that someone isn't happy? Like, when I was in work, I had friends who were on 15K a year, and they told me, for me, that's more than enough. Who am I to say, oh no, it's not enough? Who am I to say? Who do I think I am to say that? I'm nobody to say that. I don't have their life situation. So why am I going to do that? And the only thing I have with it is that, before I even get to that actually, and I was also the kid that'd be like, oh, if you don't like your job, just start a business. But then when I would try to persuade people that didn't like their jobs to do a business, and they're complaining about money to do a business, I realized when they kept making excuses that then entrepreneurship isn't for them. That's when I realized. So I was like, oh. So it's all learning, to be honest. I'm happy because, like, this was me learning this at 19. So to be real, I'm happy that I didn't go, like, you know, those people that go around and they shout it. Obviously, I'm not that type of guy to put people down or tell people this kind of stuff. But it's things I thought in my head due to the personal development I was listening to from certain people that I shouldn't have been listening to it from. Well, obviously it was online, so I'd see it on like a personal development page or something like that. But now I know how to filter that out. And the only thing I have with it is that I remember once, this was, so many people were on to me in summer 2020. They were on, acting like I was doing something wrong or something like that. Like someone I knew from about 2 years prior when I was 16, when I started doing voluntary work and stuff, they must have called me up. And this isn't a diss, just in case she's listening. This ain't no diss to you. But she called me up out of nowhere. She just saw my page on Insta. Then she texted me, do you have time to speak? I didn't even respond, but she found the need to call me without even, without even me responded. Then she was like, oh, how are you? I was like, I'm good. I was like, how are you? And then she's like, yeah, I'm good. Then she started giving me hella advice. And I don't have a problem with getting advice, but not everybody can give you advice. Why? Because some people don't have your goals. Some people don't want to do what you want to do. She was trying to tell me how she's gonna come out of uni and work for a corporate company in what, I don't know how many years, but it wasn't in the near future. I was like, why are you telling me this if that's not my goal? I just told you that I left college in year 12 to do an apprenticeship. If I did that, do you think I want to go to uni? You don't leave year 12 when you're getting good grades for the first time in your life to do an apprenticeship. I was getting good grades in college, and I said, I still don't like it. Because I said to myself, for me, learning on the job or earning an income, especially because I didn't have money when I was younger, that's good for me because now I know how to manage money. Now I can invest in podcast equipment and laptops, which I can use, because my brand wouldn't be at the point that it's at right now if I didn't have money to invest into it. It wouldn't be. So that was a great investment by me, not to big myself up, but just to say that. So how is somebody trying to tell me that I need to go to uni and I need to do all this stuff, I need to work at a corporate company, making me feel like I'm doing something wrong, when that's not what my life calling is. My life calling has always been entrepreneurship. If you look at it, when I wanted to be a WWE wrestler, without me even knowing, I was making business plans for a wrestling company. I was doing YouTube videos based on a wrestling company I was thinking of starting, but I didn't even think of it as a business. When I was younger, I used to always write books and always write certain ideas I had down. These are businesses. But I never thought of it as businesses. I didn't even like school. Obviously, I'm grateful that I had an education, but I didn't like school. A lot of entrepreneurs don't like school. I was made for this. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the only thing I have a bit of a gripe about. I would never ever tell anybody, oh, do this, do that, da 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 da. Like some people tell me, oh, Jonas, your clients don't want you to give them motivation and da 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 da. I was like, our clients clearly aren't the same, because my clients are quite happy. My clients are quite happy with what I'm providing them. So you can't, like, just because you're doing something doesn't mean that I'm destined to do that too. Because I think a lot of people view others in autobiographical lenses. Everyone sees other people, not everybody. A lot of people see others the way they see themselves. So for example, let's say Toby's into politics, right? Let's use Toby, big up Toby. Let's use Toby for example. Toby's into politics, right? But he's also a speaker. He's also into personal development, but I don't think that's his focus, right? That's like me going to him and saying, Toby, you're doing this wrong. Why are you doing politics? No one wants to hear about politics. Do personal development. Yeah. That's not Toby. Toby's different. Like, that's the thing. That's the only thing I have with it. But it's not everybody in a 9-to-5 that does that. It's some entrepreneurs that do it too. So that's the thing about it. But yeah.
The whole online world, like, is so... Everyone just preaches this specific idea online or a specific idea online, and then it catches on, and then people catch on to that idea, and then they just start spreading it without, and especially, like, thing is, because we are all so young, we have so many more years to live, God willing, and experience and stuff to go through. So it's just like, how can you just be completely negating a type of path that someone wants to take on their life when you haven't even tried that path yet, or when you're still at uni, or when you're still at school? You know, I feel like people should just kind of sometimes keep these types of opinions to themselves and realize that each person is going to go on a different path. And if someone's doing something different than you, even if you don't agree with it, that doesn't mean it's wrong, because that might be right for them.
Exactly. So many people told me to not do an apprenticeship. So many people, even when I told them the benefit, said, no, you have to go to uni. Some people told me you're gonna regret it. I'm not regretting it right now. It was and regardless what happens, I won't regret it, because I still got my brand started and now I'm getting speaking gigs. If my brand wasn't at a good point and it was looking ugly, I wouldn't be getting speaking gigs. And that's not to flex, but that's just to say that once you invest in something, you will see that people take you more seriously. And when I first started doing personal development again, I was like, what do you mean I have to invest my money? Yeah. What do you mean I have to invest my money into equipment What do you mean I have to put my money that I earn from the business back into the business for it to grow? But now that's a necessity. That's like, nah. That's calm. I don't have that's what I want to do, to be honest with you. That's what I want to do. But back then, back when I was 17, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? But you have to do those kind of things. And I don't see it as a sacrifice, but a few people may see it as a sacrifice. But the people out there that are entrepreneurs will know that it isn't a sacrifice, it's an investment. So that's the thing. And even the entrepreneurs that have jobs, actually, they're the same. So, and plus you can become a millionaire. Look at Steve Ballmer. He was a billionaire through doing an actual day-to-day job. I'm going to say day-to-day, not 9 to 5, day-to-day job. He became a billionaire. So who's to say that you can't become a millionaire? And I'm not saying the millionaire is the goal. The goal, in my opinion, is to be happy. And
exactly.
So be financially free. You don't need to be a millionaire to be financially free, to be honest. It's whatever you need to live your life. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it, bro. Cool.
I agree.
Oh, cool.
You touched every single point.
Oh, cool. Cool. So the next one I got for you is social media is toxic. How far do you agree on a scale of 1 to 10?
5. I'm gonna have to meet you halfway. 0.5, because I think there's a lot of benefit to it. I think a lot of the benefits that can come from social media is that this wouldn't be possible, for example, without social media. We wouldn't have met, we wouldn't have sat down and had a conversation like this without social media. So relationships and helping you kind of meet new people, I think that's something that's extremely important and something that's overlooked. You know, yes, you can use social media to meet people for dating purposes and all that type of stuff, but this is where the real gold is at. Conversations, actual people doing things with their lives, those types of connections. Social media can really help you grow them and maintain them, if that makes sense. But obviously nothing beats like a face-to-face interaction, but you know the whole story. And then as well, I feel like social media can expose you to different thoughts and perspectives. So, you know, instead of being constrained to one specific idea, you know, all the times I've changed my mind about things, all the times I've gotten different perspectives about things is because I've been exposed to something different that someone said or different that someone posted, or a specific YouTube video that gave a different perspective. And that perspective resonated with me more than what I used to believe in. So I feel that's good with exposing you to different ideas. And also, I think social media is really good if you're trying to do something in terms of business, because as we know, this is a technologically driven age. Everything is digital. If you can build a personal brand, that's a huge asset, you know. I'm sure you know this, I know this. Building a personal brand is a big asset and it can help you in so many ways. It's like an online CV, you know, and there's so many different skills that you can gain out of doing this. So in that sense, I think social media is really good. The bad side of social media is that I do think, first of all, the way it reprograms your brain, like at the psychological level, is very dangerous. You know, we don't realize how much we are changing how our brains are wired, especially these kids that are growing up. Like around the time me and you grew up, social media was not a thing, you know, it only became a thing, the past 10 years. So I'm just scared for these little kids growing up with these types of things, because the effect that it's going to have on their brains is crazy. We don't even know the long-term effects on ourselves. And we've only been dealing with this stuff for like 10 years. And I'm sure so many of us, like even me myself, I'll admit this, my attention span has gone down. For example, that's something I've noticed. The more I've used social media, my attention span has gone down, and so many other things. Like sometimes I feel like it's crazy, but I'm just like, why can't you live without your phone? You know, like I say that to myself sometimes, not that I can't live without it, but I feel like sometimes I'll just naturally go and grab my phone. It's like, it becomes a thing where it's dangerous because you start to become dependent. So I think the dependency is dangerous as well. I think the whole idea of misinformation can spread easily on social media, and people can be convinced, especially with hustle culture and toxic positivity, these types of ideas can be driven into people on social media because of the types of people they follow. So there's also the effect in terms of the information you consume, because if it's toxic, if it's not good, if it's unrealistic, if it's about flex culture and it's pushing you to have unreasonable expectations and values, that in that sense, social media is really dangerous. And it can just overall be a distraction. So I do think that there's goods and bad. I do think, me personally, I would have loved to live in an age without social media. That's just because me as a person, the type of person I am, Even though I am a content creator and I love using social media, I do think my life would be better without it. As much good I try to get out of it, I still do think my life would be better if I lived in a time in the world where there wasn't social media, and I feel like life would just be calmer, more peaceful, less toxic ultimately. But sometimes you just have to make sacrifices and hope that it pays off at the end.
Exactly. And this is the thing, because a lot of people, and when we've already spoken about this as well, right? But when, obviously, I told you this after we spoke about this too, but when a lot of people say that social media is toxic, they just say, oh yeah, people's pictures, they basically give stupid excuses about it. And I'm not going to say my opinion on it now. You already know my opinion on it. I said it in the clubhouse yesterday before I joined the clubhouse you were in, but I'm going to save my opinion for a different episode. But I think, no, I went on a story one time and I was talking, do you remember? I was saying how people are let's forget about it. No, I might as well say it now because we're here. But remember my story when I was saying something like, nobody told you to compare yourself to someone on social media, so why are you hating on couples that do you remember when I said that basically? Why are you hating on couples that are showing the good stuff,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the bad stuff? Because if you were in their position, you wouldn't show the bad stuff, would you? You wouldn't post a picture of yourself looking where you feel that you look ugly. You post a picture of yourself with makeup where you think you look good. So why is it a problem if someone else does it? And who gave you the permission to compare yourself to someone on social media? That's what I said on it. And obviously I can go into whole detail about it, but I'm not going to because we've already spoken about it. But, or me and you have, the viewers haven't heard my perspective, but they will do. And that's just another cliffhanger. You guys keep watching the Let's Talk Facts podcast and you might get it. I've just got to say that, I got to keep everyone here. But yeah, so yeah, all jokes aside. But yeah, that's the thing, because I got to agree with you on that. And me and you, we're both low-key, I think we're old souls, bro. Because think about the music we listen to music today, but right, remember when we were talking about, was it Benny King?
Ben King.
Yeah, like we listen to Motown from like the 60s, 70s, 80s. I agree with you. I would prefer to live in an age without social media. I actually would. And this is a recent thing for me, like last 2 weeks kind of thing. Even movies from the 80s and stuff I watch. I don't usually watch movies from these days anymore. I watch movies from back in the day. So even my mom said, you're an old soul, Jonas. And I was like, oh yeah, it's true, like my man will be listening to Bob Marley while I'm working. So yeah, that's just the thing. And I'd want to live in an age without social media, although we both agree that it is helping us and we both do see it as a tool.
It's a tool.
Still, I got to agree with you again, man, because yeah, man, like I don't think it's toxic, but the reasons that you gave are extremely good reasons. And those reasons would make me change my mind, but I'd still need to sit on that thought before I change it. I still need to let it marinate for a bit, because even you told me this like 2-3 weeks ago, and it's still marinating in my head. It's the whole thing about the patterns changing in your mind, which make me think about it and how people's attention spans. And also, sometimes when I wake up, my man will grab his phone immediately. When I finish working, I say to him, I have saying, because when I work, I put my phone on airplane mode, right? And that's why so many people, I don't pick up so many calls, guys, because it's on airplane mode. So, guys, also, if you know me, if you want to talk to me on a weekday, it's probably not going to happen on phone. It's going to happen on weekend. So, yeah, I haven't told everybody that, so I thought I'd just say that so everybody's aware. So, yeah, I'll go for my phone, but my plan usually is to either exercise in my break or meditate or just do something, go for a walk or something like that, but not get my phone. But then I still want to go on my phone. But the thing is with me, I go on my phone to check if anybody on Insta has messaged me on my professional account. So it's kind of good, but then it's still a habit I need to get rid of. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah. And the final one for you is, and this is going to lead into the last few questions that I have for you after this. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, how far do you agree with this statement? A leader would never call themselves a leader.
Ooh, I would say I'm going to give it like a 4. Okay, I'm gonna give it like a 4, because I think an important quality of a leader is their ability to recognize that they can lead, their ability to recognize that they are gifted in a certain aspect, that God has given them a gift, of the gift of knowledge, you know. And so recognizing that, I think, is extremely important and is part of being a leader. And when I say, I never like to call myself, myself, I don't like to call myself a leader, because I think that word does not encompass, or is too all encompassing. So when I say a leader, I like to say I'm a leader in this, or I'm a leader in this, but that does not mean that I'm the only leader. And that does not mean that I'm the best leader, but I just think I have a gift in this. So for me, leadership is tied to gifts and knowledge. And I think it's important to be able to recognize that, because if you don't recognize that, how you won't be able to use your gift. So you need to have self-belief. And I think that's why it's important to be able to recognize that you are a leader in a certain aspect. But I think leadership also comes with humility and humbleness and the ability to set your ego aside. And so that's why I give it kind of like the halfway, almost halfway point, because I do think it's important to know that you're a leader, but also it's important to recognize that even though you're a leader, that does not mean that you don't have work to do. That doesn't mean that you don't have things to take care of. That doesn't mean that you can fall out of leadership because you're not keeping up, you know? I do think that it's important to realize that there's always learning to be done. There's always work to be done. There's always going to be doubters. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people challenging you for your leadership, even though I don't like to look at things in terms of competition. But, you know, it's important to recognize that. And it's important to be able to realize that being a leader is a big responsibility. So that's why I'm just saying that a leader is a leader, but a leader also recognizes that he is humble and that he has a place and he can lead a certain group of people or a certain type of people, but he may not be a leader for everyone. And so just to kind of recognize that you have a gift. So use it wisely, but also appreciate that you have the gift.
100%, 100%. Here's my opinion. A leader knows that they're a leader, but they would never say out loud that they're a leader. Like they would never flex it or tell everybody, I'm a leader, da, 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 da. For me personally, I didn't believe I was a leader until about probably COVID lockdown time, to be real with you. Like I knew I had talent. I knew that from about when I got my apprenticeship in September 2019. That's when I started to become confident. And I was like, wow, I've actually got something that I can actually do. Because prior to this, everyone would always say to me, Jonas, you got no talent. You're going to end up dead or in jail. You're going to fail. You're the most immature in our year group. You're dumb. All this kind of stuff. So it took me a while for me to really realize. So this was a year after secondary school. So it's not that long, a year and a few months after secondary school. That's what I said to myself. I actually got something here, you know. But I believe I'm a leader. I believe you're a leader. But so many people have told me I'm a leader. And then I've shown myself why I'm a leader, but that's why I believe it. But I would never go up to a group and say, I'm a leader, because I'm a firm believer that talk is cheap. Actions are priceless.
That's true.
That's what I believe. So
lead by action.
You can say that you're a leader as much as you like, but if you're not portraying and exhibiting the daily habits of leaders, and I don't mean as in waking up early or meditating and stuff like that. You don't need to do that stuff to be a leader. I didn't do that stuff when I was a leader before. But what I'm talking about is obviously, as you said, setting your ego aside, asking for feedback, putting your team first, appreciating your team. If you can't do little things like, this is basic, right? But people get it wrong. Don't criticize people in front of people. The only thing you should be doing is praising them in front of people. You can give them constructive feedback. Actually, I don't even see it as criticism. I see it as constructive feedback, right? You can give constructive feedback in private, only praise in public. Only praise in public. That's my motto personally. Like, there's a reason that when I'm doing stuff, so with the Health as Wealth campaign, there's a reason why I tell people, message me privately. And then there's a reason that if someone's not doing something to the best of their abilities, I will say to them, look, But also, I do it in the sandwich approach. I say to them, I give them a praise, then I put the feedback there, then I give them another praise, so that I'm not rubbing them the wrong way. And the message is delivered well because of that. And that right there, that's a leadership quality. That's a quality. I'm not saying that as the essence of leadership, because it's not. It's a quality and a skill that leaders exhibit. So that's the kind of things I'm talking about. A lot of people in the workplace don't get respected by the people that they manage because they can't do the basic things. So their team doesn't work for them. The team isn't motivated. They don't have check-ins with their employees because they're not a leader. But you may not be a leader, but that doesn't mean you can't work on it and become a leader. Because I'm a firm believer that anybody has the potential to be sensational, but the thing that separates people is mentality.
I agree. Mentality and discipline as well.
Word, exactly.
Discipline plays a big.
Definitely discipline. Because this is the thing. Everyone says they want to get motivated. Motivation's temporary. What you need to get yourself over the finish line is discipline, as you said. Motivation is a temporary
100%.
Temporary boost.
100%. I agree. I think it's discipline, consistency, and the ability to take action over give cheap talk, as you said.
Exactly. There's 4 degrees of action, 4 degrees. So there's no action, obviously, where you're doing nothing, right? You're just doing nothing with your life. Then there's retreat, and this is the worst, bro. Imagine you're doing well, yeah, and you start getting worse. That's peak, bro. That's peak. That's the worst. Retreat is the worst, right? Then you got normal action, which is basically average, and average. Nah, we don't like average. Like you're just being mediocre. You're doing a bit. But then there's massive action, bro. When you take massive action,
done.
That's the action we're talking about. Massive action. And when you take massive action, you don't have time to be saying all this stuff. Oh yeah, I'm this, I'm that. You don't have time for it. Sometimes I will hold my hands up. Sometimes I'm excited and I say to like my mom, for example, oh mom, like the plans I've got are gonna be so good. But I don't say it in a cocky way. I say it in a excited way because I'm so excited to give you guys so much value. That's why. But I don't go out on the net and say, oh man, like when you see what I got soon, oh man. Well, if I'm maybe promoting a podcast, I'll say that, but the work's already been done. So it's not like I'm gonna flop. Well, it may be rubbish in everybody else's eyes, you never know. But if it's done already, and I think it's at a good point where it's gonna benefit people, then maybe I don't usually say, oh, the podcast is great, I'll say, oh, it's a good listen, guys, give it a listen. But I don't oversell things, right? Because that's how you disappoint people. Yeah. And I think a lot of people oversell things and sometimes oversell themselves to a point where they can't live up to the expectation they set for themselves in other people's eyes. But that's not in a way of me saying that's not a way of me. Sorry, what did you say, bro?
You need to let your actions speak. Your actions and your things and the product, whatever you put out, speaks for itself, and let that do the talking for you. You know,
exactly, and that's the thing, man. That's the thing. So I'm not saying that they can't live up to that, but just talk is cheap, actions are priceless. Just remember that, guys. Just if you take anything away from this episode, just remember talk is cheap and actions are priceless, please. Yeah, bro, that's the thing. And now we've kind of spoken about this. However, I want to ask you, how would you define leadership, though?
Okay, so I think leadership, if you were to define it, I'm just going to go back to kind of what I said before. It's that ability to take whatever gifts God has given you and be able to put that to use to help other people. I think leadership lies in service. I think as human beings, one of our ultimate purposes, and I think this can apply to every single person, is service, is to provide for other people. Because as human beings, we are social creatures. You know, we thrive when we are together. We don't thrive when we're alone. Yes, you can get to the top alone, but you're not going to get there as quickly and as efficiently and as happily as you would when you're with other people. And so I feel like as human beings, one of our ultimate purposes is service. And I think that ties into the whole idea of leadership. Leadership is being able to recognize where you have your gifts and how you're going to use your gifts to serve other people. And when you can realize that, that is the true definition of leadership. I mean, able to set aside your ego, being able to set aside and never compromise your morals and values. That's something I'm big on as well. I think someone who's a leader is someone who is accepting of the fact that yes, their morals and values may change, because obviously as you're subject to different perspectives, different people, you have an evolving standard of, or evolving set of morals and values, but you always you're someone who sticks by their character. You let your actions speak louder than your words. And when you walk into a room, people know you, not because they've heard of you, but because of the way you carry yourself, because of your character, because of your values and how you treat other people. And I think that's really what makes what makes a proper leader.
Yeah. And how do people develop those leadership qualities though, bro? Like, in your opinion, how can someone say to themselves, okay, how do I become a humble leader? Because that's the essence of what we're talking about right now, manifesting
Yeah.
humble leadership. So from you, how do people become humble leaders?
So I think the first thing I would tell someone is you need to recognize that everyone has it in them to become a leader, but it's also like, if I become a leader now, that doesn't mean that my best friend's also going to become a leader now. So each person falls into that and goes into the role of leadership at different times. I think what you need to do, and I watched an amazing video about this yesterday. It's called Taoism. It's this ancient Chinese philosophy. I think it comes from a religion, so don't call me too much on the exact origin, but I know it's a Chinese philosophy, and it talks about the concept of flow. So many times in life, think of a river. Okay, a river is flowing downwards. If you swim in the river, life itself is naturally, in my opinion, life and the path that every single person is on, naturally is going to take them towards the downside of the river, with the river. Us, we encounter different things in life, perspectives, problems, traumas, and we try to swim against the flow. We listen to what society tells us. I think each person knows deep down what is their gift. I think each person deep down, if they sit within themselves, they know what they're capable of and they know what they're not. And I think the problem is society convinces us to not pursue some of the things we're capable of. It convinces us that we're not good at them. It convinces us that we're not worth it. It convinces us that we're supposed to do other things. And by doing that, you're going against the natural flow of the river, you know? So you're holding onto branches, you're trying to swim upstream, but the flow is going downstream. So when you recognize that all you need to do is just trust yourself, have that genuine belief in the process, surround yourself by the right type of environment, surround yourself by the right type of information, read those books, go out there, network, take those extra steps. I think naturally the process comes to that, or the thing comes to that person, and you fall into that whole role of leadership. It's that ability, because when you swim downstream with the river, you're collecting all these information, these people, this value, and that allows you to recognize your gifts. That allows you to kind of see where your gifts are coming from, be able to serve them to other people. So I think the most important thing is recognize that it's a process that comes in seasons, that you can't rush, and you need to embrace. And deep down, you know what you want to do. I'm sure every single person knows deep down what they really want to do and what they're destined to do. And just embrace that and try to make that work and be resourceful and adaptable and just go with the flow.
Exactly. And for me personally, if I was to sum up leadership in a quote, my quote would be, leaders create more leaders. That's my opinion. The people you're leading, it's your duty to turn them into more leaders. So then I sat with myself and I said to myself, okay, cool. So can anybody become a leader? And I could answer it right now, but of course, I want to hear what you got to say, because we kind of touched on people's potential already. But does anybody in this world have the potential to become a leader, in your opinion?
I'm going to be optimistic and I'm going to say yes. I think each person has the ability to become a leader, but a leader in specific things. So I can be a leader in loyalty, but I may not necessarily be a leader in courage, you know? So I think each person has certain gifts and certain things that they're good at. And once they discover those, they can be leaders in those. So I'm going to say yes, because I think people can be leaders in different things. And each person, I think, has something that they're destined to lead in. And when I say lead, I go back to my old definition. That goes with service, that goes with provision, that goes with that ability to stick to your characters and morals and values within this thing that you lead. And I think each person is capable, at least in my young age, and based on what I've seen from the people around me and from my experiences, I do think that leadership exists in every single person. It's just unlocking that potential, stripping back everything society tells you, stripping back your own traumas and anxieties, and really looking inwards.
Well, that's what it's all about. Like, it's in exactly specific fields. Like, not everybody's going to be a personal development leader. Some people are going to be leaders in acting or engineering, or in a family leader in general. Like, I think there's always a space for everybody within their gift, because as you said earlier, everyone has their gift within them. So yeah, I do believe that everybody does have the potential to become a leader, to be real, because there's some people out there, like when Jeff Bezos worked at McDonald's, I don't think people looked at him and said he's got the potential to be a billionaire and a leader, but he is now. So that's the thing, bro. And just before we end, because I always end on this, and I'm excited to hear yours, and the fans know what time it is. It's time to ask you, Ali Soufan, what are your top 3 rules of success, bro?
This is a really good one. I had a thought about this, and I think my top 3 rules of success are, first of all, number one, your health needs to be in check. And people are going to listen to this and be like, what's this guy talking about? Like, genuinely, your health is the most important thing. When I say health, I mean physical and mental. I'm a big believer in the sense that everything you consume affects you on a subconscious, physical, mental, and emotional level. So the food you eat, that needs to be in check. The type of people you surround yourself with, that's another form of food, you know, that needs to be in check. So that type of consumption, you always need to be aware of what you're consuming. Exercise, sleep, those types of things, that's just at the physical level. And then we're talking at the mental level. I'm a big believer in the fact that when the point where you start to compromise your mental health and well-being for something is the point where you need to realize that you cannot be successful at this thing. Because in my opinion, success means happiness and fulfillment in a specific thing. And so how can I be happy and fulfilled when my mental state is not at 100%, you know? My mental state needs to be at 100% for something to be fulfilled. And for me to feel fulfilled in something. So that's definitely number one. I say it's that whole ability. Also, it says my internet is unstable. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's number one, health, physical and mental. Number two, I'm going to go back to that whole idea of, and this is something that I've learned recently, but it's this idea of being able to, if I were to give a metaphor, let me say, and this is going back to that Chinese philosophy I was talking about, is this idea of flow. I think when you want to be successful and when you want to find fulfillment in something, because for me, success and fulfillment and happiness, they all go under one thing. You need to be able to be like water, if that makes sense, okay? Because water itself, what does water do? When water passes by things, it nourishes them, it feeds them, okay? When you throw a rock through water, water will go right past through it, it'll adapt. And so for me, the water itself symbolizes, like, it's crazy, but you can see all these lessons in nature, and water itself just symbolizes everything that I think someone who is successful and someone who can be a leader is. Water is adaptable. It goes through hard things. Water flows in a specific way. It goes back to the thing I was telling you about before, that whole concept of flowing, accepting the process, trusting the process, being in tune with nature and the seasons of life. Like, I'm giving all these like nature metaphors, but I really do believe in them because I think that nature is such a thing that mimics actual life, and it's such a thing where you can apply its principles to actual life. And so when you are like water and you flow and you go through things and you're adaptable and you're resourceful and you nourish other people, I think that's an easy way to succeed because you're helping everything around you and you're going with the natural process of life. So that's number two. And number three is definitely, and this is a big thing for me, it's my, and this is a bit more personal, but it's my belief in God. And I think that God and faith is such an important thing, and it's such an important aspect in my life because, so me personally, I'm a Muslim, but I think the same applies to all religions. When you have a code of ethics and morals and values, there is no way you can waver because that is something you stick by. And when you are successful, you're going to face so many situations where your morals and values are going to be called into question. And if you don't have something to ground you, if you don't have that code of ethics, that these morals and values, you are nothing because you, as we said, actions speak louder than words. It's your character that speaks when you walk into a room. And so having those morals and values, and as well, because religion promotes so many beautiful concepts like service, like helping other people, like uplifting others, like not speaking about other people, like setting aside your ego. That's another big thing you learn from religion. The ability to believe in God is so humbling, and you realize how powerless we are as humans, and you realize that naturally and ultimately all we are here on this earth to do is to serve each other and to serve God, and not to serve our low-level impulses and desires. And I think those are basically my three rules and the three things I really like to stick by.
Amazing, bro. Sensational, sensational. And that brings us to the end, bro. But that has been a jam-packed, super episode, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we end?
Nothing much, bro. I just want to thank you genuinely for having me on, for considering me, and just for being able to give me this platform to speak and have a conversation with you, because I really think that having these types of conversations is so powerful and beneficial, and you really never know who you can impact. And I learned a lot from you today. I hope you learned from me. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, bro. Genuinely.
Bro, love the humble response, bro. Of course, I learned hella from you. You already know. I learn from you all the time, man. In that live stream too, we did a couple weeks back, I learned from you, bro. But this is the thing, just helping people, serving as we say, and just doing what we can to become successful, but not just successful for ourselves, but so we can impact others as well, right? So guys, thank you so much for listening to the 15th episode of the Let's Talk Facts podcast. Hopefully you're here next week for the 16th episode, and take care, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Put your mind on the map, eyes on the prize, don't forget to like,